Warning. This program contains frank and mature discussions intended to educate and advocate on the subjects of sexuality, sex, and gender and body positivity. Due to the nature of the topics being discussed, this may include subject matter and language that some may find offensive. This program is intended for adults only. If you are under the age of 18, if such material offends you, or if it is illegal to view such material in your community, please exit now.
Brown chicken, brown cow. 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 This is fun. Brown chicken, brown cow. Brown chicken, brown cow.
This is the Brown Chicken Brown Cow podcast. I'm David Loretta Mola, and we're here with a brand new year. And we're going to take a little look back at last year and get to re-meet some of the voices that we got to hear. So I'm here with Monkey. Say hi, Monkey.
Hi, Monkey.
Oh, dear.
No. Hi. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
How you been, David?
We're talking to someone very fun. I'm good. I'm really excited. I'm just brimming with energy on this.
I can tell.
Woo. All right, I'm going to settle down. Deep breath. We got this. So,
Deep breath.
We're talking to one of my favorite people today, though.
Oh, really? Who is it?
Yeah. Her name's Rebecca Blayton, and I've got to work with her in a few different artistic scenes, and I'm really excited to be able to talk to her. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I always love talking to Rebecca. She's a blast. So, you ready to bring her in?
I am so ready to bring her in. Hey, Rebecca.
Rebecca.
Say hello.
Hey guys, it's good to be on the show again. Good to see you again.
Oh, thank you for coming back on. So Rebecca, you've been on in the first grouping. You've actually been on the show twice. For those that may not know, you came on and talked about your history, your life during the BDSM and Kink Month. You also came on and did a little bit of comedy for one of our vodcasts. So we really love having you on the air. That's why we're bringing you
I've had a ton of fun being on your show.
Oh, yes, thank you. You got to see us start from humble beginnings to where we are kind of now. What are your impressions so far?
I think you guys have done an excellent job of finding your voice pretty early on. A lot of podcasts struggle with that, and you seem to have had a pretty clear vision. You've had some amazing guests. I love listening to the show. And I think the growth is great. You guys are up in the ratings. The podcast technically sounds great. So, yeah, congratulations.
Woohoo! All right, your ball, David. What do you want to ask?
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, what's been your life since the last time we talked to you? Like, what have you been up to? What's been going on?
Actually, not too much. I've been kind of consumed with health issues, so I've been dealing with that on my end, which has cut into work significantly and unfortunately. I have been working on, I ghostwrite autobiographies, and I've been working on this autobio for a woman who discovered kink and then found a dom who's a long-distance trucker, and now they live a 24/7 life, sub-dom dynamic, long-distance trucking across the U.S. Fascinating.
Oh, wow. That is crazy. Wow.
Right? That's a wild, it's a world that I kind of knew might be out there, but talking to people about what it's like to drive back and forth across the country every week and then maintain this 24/7 power dynamic she's fascinating. She's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. Wow, we're going to have to bring you back on and maybe talk to them too. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, and then so good friend of mine, she's up there near SAC, was the first openly transgender woman to serve in the Army. And I've started the background research for her autobio.
Oh, wow.
Which is so cool.
So you've been busy.
It's research. It's my inner nerd comes out. I like reading all of the policy briefs and stuff, and it taps into an old love of mine.
Because you were in government for quite a while, yeah.
I was, and I love policy research, and I love seeing how that changes as society changes. So getting on an issue that has become so prescient in the last few years, and how that has developed after being, in the part of the gay movement where we were just trying not to get fired from working at schools and stuff when I started lobbying. It's a fascinating history to me.
Yeah, that is absolutely fantastic. Wow, the little bit of jelly to hear how how deep you are into something like that, because it sounds really intriguing and fantastic to be able to dig in and chew on it. So fantastic.
Yeah.
So, we've done a lot of different topics so far, because we do theme-based topics, but within that we do little segments and different corners of every single theme. So we've done BDSM, we've done sex and spirituality, we've done giving back, we've done sex performers, like yourself, because you've had a couple of those topics in there. But what I wanted to know is, what have any of these really impressed you or impacted you or changed your thoughts on anything yet?
I'm not sure if they've changed my thoughts. I think
you're pretty progressive.
Me to be more authentic to who I am.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things, for years I worked as a professor and then in the policy realm, and those are very conservative fields. And right, and most of my work revolved around women's issues, women veterans, and so we're not in a place where we can politically have the discussion of how can you be into kink and submission and all of that and fight for women's rights. I don't think politically the country's at a point where they could have a reasonable discussion about that. So in that world, I had to keep a lot of this kind of quiet. But so coming out and being able to, work in kink full time is just, it feels more true to who I am. And I like that. I still work on it from a policy end, but, I don't think they'll ever put me back up on a dais to testify again.
Right.
Yeah. It's kink and power exchange was great for working in politics because you have to understand how power works.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with a good friend of mine who was Mr. Leather in Sacramento a few years back, who also works in politics. And you just take that aesthetic and it translates into power in politics. Like, I would never testify wearing anything other than like a pencil skirt, a high neck silk blouse, and stilettos, which is so high femdom. But you walk in and they're like, oh, she knows what she's saying, and we're gonna listen, and it works.
Gosh, yeah, it's amazing the psychology of what happens when you just wear a different outfit and how it affects everybody around you.
Oh yeah. And if I channel my inner dom when I'm testifying, it's like I can get them to believe anything I say. It's like it's amazing how it translates, but it does.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering, since you've been on here a couple of times, did you have any favorite moments that really stood out to you as a guest while you were on the show?
I actually really liked doing the one where I did the stand-up.
Ooh.
Because that was, the guest you had on before me, I had actually used his work in his organization when I was a reader for a woman completing her master's thesis at CSULA on BDSM and film. And so having tapped into all that academic stuff and used it to meet the person who generated that was freaking awesome.
You were having a little geek squee there, weren't you?
It's like, thank you, because your work made a difference in my life. Like, I like being able to thank people for, getting out there and taking these chances so that other people's lives are better. That was kind of awesome. And that academic nerd still comes out of me, and I was like, oh my God, we can talk about this on another level,
Oh, yeah.
So it's been a ton of fun. And, you've had a remarkable panel of guests. And so, the show you did with Jo Ellen was great. And she always has some awesome things to say.
So my next question actually pertains to moving forward, looking at our next year, because I know there's other spaces that we're going to have you come back. But what type of topics would you like to see us try to expand on or grow, or something we may not have even touched yet?
There's a couple that I see coming up. One with the national discussion on consent, sexual harassment, sexual assault. I think that in the next year is going to continue to be a topic that is a concern on a national level. I would like to see you guys do a podcast that takes, like, Consent 201. Because I feel like most of the consent conversations we've had is consent 101. Like, there's so many people who don't get the basics, and we have to keep having that conversation because it really is different than what most people understand. But, you know, being in the kink community, and for those of us who've been working on these issues for years and decades, it's like, okay, so you have the pretty simple one, like Consent and Tea is an excellent video on basic consent, but things in the kink community, like what is implied consent? How does that work? Some of these more gray areas around it, and it's a difficult conversation to have because you want people to recognize basic consent issues, and we have to change the culture on that. But context is important, and it's not an area where there's absolute black and white all the time. So, you know, and there's a lot of people out there working on consent issues. Kitty Stryker's new book is out. It's great. She would be fantastic for you guys to have on. I actually just worked with my mother, who's an LCSW and has a PhD in psychology. And she has been, for years, doing a training that she's developed and researched and vetted on how to teach developmentally disabled youth about sexuality in a consent-based model.
Oh, that's great.
And working with her, one of the things I actually learned is for developmentally disabled people, 86% of all developmentally disabled women and over 40% of developmentally disabled men have been raped multiple times by the time they're 40 or by the time they're 20.
Oh, wow.
And it's often by caregivers.
Right.
And this is a whole group that we haven't talked about, and most people don't actually even see as humans who would have a sexuality, but there's more and more people who are on the spectrum and stuff and going to college, and that's fantastic. But we need to talk about how do we give them a language and training that allows them to communicate around issues of consent and desire and all of that.
Yeah, and I'm actually
you know,
I was just looking at the schedule here. We actually have it slotted out for September, I believe. It's going to be our month about consent that we're talking and really diving into that whole topic, for sure.
Yeah, no, I think that would be great. And I think, you know, we're going to have, you know, we'll see a few new topics develop. I do think, especially with the visibility that Andrew Gerza is getting with his Disability After Dark work, discussions about how, you know, people with different disabilities are part of the kink world and the sexuality, and, you know, everything from Joe Ellen's work on, you know, living with mental illness and being sexual to physical disabilities. And I think because so many people deal with that, but we haven't had that discussion a lot,
right,
we'll start to see people willing to talk about what it's like to be, you know, non-able-bodied in some way and have to deal with sexuality.
Absolutely. Those are some very deep subjects that we're definitely, I know we have other subjects coming up. I think the disability, we're going to go dipping back into that pool and that subject a little bit deeper in just a couple of months as well. So, yeah, thank you. Actually, that's, if I think now, that's May that we're actually going to do that month. So,
good.
Yeah, so that's coming up soon. So, yeah, we have a lot of things to expand on. So thank you for letting us know we're actually on the right path. We're moving in the right direction. We're putting a voice and a face to these type of subjects. And, you know, thank you. This is what we're trying to do, is try to share these type of things with people.
Yeah, and you guys have been doing a great job so far. I can't wait to see what the next year holds for you.
Do you have any suggestions for the show? Any, like, hey, you need to add this, or you want to do this differently, or, you know, anything that would work better? Maybe a clown in the background? I don't know. There's me and David and I, but
yeah.
What's that?
You know, I think you guys have done a great job of balancing your guests and the vlog as well as the podcast are always a ton of fun to watch. I like the fact that you've brought on, you know, comedians and stuff to do that. It makes it light. It makes it easy to listen to. For me, it's the data nerd again. I'm like a little more metadata and stuff, so when people are searching, they can really find you guys, because I think there's a lot of good stuff out there.
Right.
And so, you know, when people are searching, you should be popping up for, all your different subjects to listen to.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I think you do a great job overall. I've been thrilled to see how this has come out in the last year.
Well, one of the things we are doing is we're creating a new website in 2018. Our fantastic producer and web designer, the Madam, is actually working hard to make that happen. And so a lot of these things are going to be changing. A lot of more exposure, more availability is going to be happening. So, I think we can address some of those issues that you just brought up. So we're going to work harder and better and stronger for everybody out there so that they have a chance.
Yeah, no, I think you guys are a great resource. I refer people back to the various podcasts when they're looking for information, and I think it's part of it just getting the word out there that this is another resource out there that's great.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being on the show again, and hey, I think this is a hat trick. This is 3 times, right?
This is. They'd call it a turkey in bowling, right?
I was going to say, you get a turkey.
Yeah, a turkey. You get a turkey. That's the one. This isn't a hockey. I know sports.
I don't know anything about hockey.
Yeah, I'm not a big sports balls fan either, but I know a lot of people out there are. So once again, thank you for coming on the air.
Thanks for having me on the air, and I look forward to talking to you guys in the future.
Fantastic,
yeah.
David. Do you have anything to say on the way out?
Oh gosh, I'll see you later because we do poetry.
See you later. Toodles, guys.
Okay, and. Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. Let's go to a word from our sponsors, and when we come back, who do we have coming up, David?
Well, I'm looking right at the schedule. It says Sister Kali.
Ooh, that was a fun interview.
I can't wait to see them again.
Time. Oh, yeah. So we'll be right back after this.
Hi, guys. This is Sean Monkey McAnee, Monkey for short. You know what? If you're in town here in Sacramento, or if you're anywhere, you need to check out Midtown Moxies. They are a Sacramento burlesque troupe that is blowing my doors off. They are amazing. Generally, they have 2 shows a month. One called the Midtown Moxies and one called Moxie Crush. You need to go to midtownmoxies.com or find them on Facebook. They are amazing. They're beautiful. They're funny as hell. Trust me, I wouldn't be advertising with them if I didn't believe in them. They are freaking fantastic. Enough said. Go to midtownmoxies.com.
Wow. Thank you, Rebecca. Also, Auntie Vice. She is an amazing comedian, amazing person, making things happen and changes for the better for the world. If you have a chance, like you said, go back and watch our vodcast with her doing her stand-up comedy. It's amazing. David, we're going to talk to somebody who you didn't get a chance to talk to before.
What?
I know. This was, I think you came in just after we talked to Sister Kali, and Sister Kali is amazing.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Wait,
I totally got
you
to
there
talk
for
to
that?
it. I hate to break it.
I thought you were there.
We did that together. I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to play it off.
Yeah, no. Now I remember because you had that thing and the thing and the thing.
And the thing, yeah.
Exactly. I'm not ridiculous or anything. Sister Kali, how you doing?
Wonderful. How are you guys doing?
Apparently a little mind spun, but that's okay. We'll be all right.
Well, I have brown chicken, brown cow running through my head all morning.
All right, yeah. That is a catchy little tune. Oh, yeah. So
I woke up singing it in my head.
Well, I have other songs, earworms that we could sing for you and get the brown chicken, brown cow out of your head. I'm sure David can help out too. We'll talk about that after the show.
I'm sure there's many ways that we could come up with to get a song out of my head.
Well, can I just jump in really quick because I'm super curious because last time we spoke, I got to ask you what the conclave was. And you got into it a little bit. As I understand, it happened, and I'm wondering, what was it? What happened? What was it like? Describe the experience if you could.
That is correct. Conclave did happen. And Sister Conclave is where we invite sisters in from all over the world. And during our scheduling, we also had an overlap with Palm Springs Pride, and it was our 11th anniversary for the San Diego Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. So we planned a huge amount of events that started on November 1st and included a bus ride up to Palm Springs on Sunday the 5th, and then everything culminated in the evening on November 11th for Solidarity of None, which was our big dance party. And so it was our 11th anniversary in the 11th month, culminating on the 11th day. So we had the 11-11-11 thing going on.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
It was pretty incredible. We did have some sisters that were here from all over, even a couple from Montreal. We did some wonderful things throughout San Diego County. If anyone's ever been to San Diego, we are the second largest city in the state of California. So we did try to spread things out. We did a coastal tour with a van full of sisters going up the coast and stopping at some interesting scenic locations and just getting out and finding sisters, wandering the beach or at the meditation gardens at the Self-Realization Center, a.k.a. Swami Beach, up in North County. And we had a procession in Hillcrest to the pride flag that hangs over Hillcrest as our Axis Mundi, our center post by which we gathered around to do a ritual. We had a flashlight tour through various nooks and crannies, through canyons around Hillcrest that included some histories of architecture, salacious histories of San Diego historians, and all kinds of things. So sisters were everywhere.
Wow. Gosh. See, and I said it last time, and that just makes me really want to be a sister. Everything I hear about your organization, I'm just like,
I'm really just excited to use the words nooks and crannies. So.
Right, exactly. We did wander the bushes. we went trekking through a canyon on a jogging and dirt biking trail over it's a footbridge that goes over the canyon where 163 is, but it's not a very well-known one because you have to know the canyon that leads to it, which I had never been before. Oh. But it was rather interesting to go wandering through at night on these foot trails and taking in some different parts of San Diego that you don't normally see, as well as having sisters in different parts of San Diego where you don't usually find sisters.
Right. So let's take it back to the show a little bit. Have you had any favorite moments about the show so far, other than the amazing Sister Collie, which you may or may not know about?
I've heard of her. I've heard rumors. Her rumors get around. Actually, it was an amazing time with you guys. It was one of the most fun interviews I've ever done in my life.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet. I'm verklempt.
Oh.
Walk amongst yourselves. David, I'll give you a topic. Think about something to ask Sister Carly. I'll be right back.
Okay, absolutely. I've got you. So actually, I was wondering with that podcast, was there anything that you heard back from the community, the sisters, after you did the podcast with us?
I had not heard anything directly. But I did get some wonderful feedback just in general about how fun the podcast was. Everyone loved you guys. It's like kind of the old school, radio morning show host, and it was really a tremendous amount of fun.
That's pretty much the aesthetic that we aim for.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of feedback, too, that yours is actually one of the most favorite of our listeners as well. The people keep telling us that they really enjoyed that conversation between you, David, and I. So we had a lot of fun. So that's great.
Oh, wonderful! Thank you.
Well,
it's good to be playful in the morning.
I was wondering, do you listen to us at all? Any other podcasts that we've done, or anything of that sort?
I haven't, only because I'm not a young sister. So I have, the podcast came along at a time where I'm still a little bit technologically challenged. So I haven't picked up the habit of podcasts. But it's after I did the podcast with you guys, it's been on my list. But during the course of that, I also have closed my shop, my personal business, and done a lot of relocating, and also purchased some land outside of San Diego County, outside of town, to do a retreat center. So I've had my hands full. But your podcast has been on my mind. I'm sure at least once every week. Hence the song running through my head when I woke up this morning.
Well, another way to listen to our podcast, if you listen to, if you prefer not having to download an app or anything, you can actually go out to YouTube, because we take all of our shows and convert them, do the internet magic thing, and put them up on YouTube so that everybody can watch them there. And actually, what's kind of cool about that YouTube channel is we can see your beautiful face right there on the screen.
Well, that's good to know. I have figured out YouTube somewhat slightly. I'm the kind of person that if you change the background colors on my email, I get completely confused.
Well, gosh, I was wondering, because we cover a whole wide variety of topics on this show, on this podcast. Is there anything that you feel like we should cover, or that you'd love to hear about?
Right. No, I don't have a specific topic, but what I really enjoy the most about our talk before and what you guys are bringing is the full openness and the ability to have just real good, live, off-the-cuff, open conversations with folks from any varied walk of life. And I think we need more of that. We need more opportunity for people to be themselves. I know for myself, in my personal life and my sister life and all these things, sometimes topics can get edited. And it's nice to be in a forum where I can be fully myself, but as well as other guests that you have on are able to be fully themselves, because it's too much right now in where things are, and I don't want to tumble down the road of politics, but where things are right now, it's we're either being pushed back into the shadows because we're not quite the norm or the mainstream, or we're forced out into the streets with signs and resistance. But the truth is, who are we on an authentic day-to-day basis? And to be able to have conversations with folks where we're not in reaction to things, but able to be, sitting in ourselves and be expressive and be proud of who we are, and not have to edit that, so that people can realize that there are myriads of shades of the rainbow, and there's a reason that light gets refracted into many, many colors, because that's the heartbeat of life.
Yeah, that's being able to provide a voice and a comfortable space and talk about somebody's point of view or what's passionate to them is also part of what we try to do and what we're trying to bring forward for people. Speaking about looking forward, see, look, I can do transitions. Do you have any events or fundraisers coming up for the San Diego chapter?
The San Diego Sisters usually take a little bit of downtime following the first of the year. So I'm not quite sure what we have coming up in February yet, but that's also because I will be in Australia at the first of the year. And coming out, I get back from Australia soon on the 18th. And then I'm also preparing for an event called Pantheacon in San Jose. So my involvement with the sisters is going to be a little bit minimal for that those first few weeks upon my return. And then things will kick into high gear into the spring.
Well, David, I think, we're already going on a honeymoon with Jessa Lee and her soon-to-be new husband. I think we could probably pencil in a trip to Australia.
I think I'll put it on the schedule.
Okay.
It's going to be amazing.
That's enough. I'm sold. If it's amazing.
I might get whisked away by Australian men, too. Who knows? One can hope.
Well,
can you tell us a little bit about these? Go ahead, David.
I was going to ask the same thing, I think, that you were about PantheaCon, right?
Yeah. Just start over.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit.
Sure.
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about PantheaCon, if you could.
Sure. PantheaCon is touted as the largest indoor pagan convention in the U.S. It is in San Jose every year in February on President's Day weekend, and they get about 2,000 to 3,000 pagans. It's pan, as in all spiritual practices, so that it kind of runs the gamut. And I will be doing a workshop on that Monday of President's Day weekend, and the workshop is titled "Fear is a Source of Magic."
Wow!
That's just a whole other topic.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to hear about that personally. If we have you back on, huh?
All right.
But thank you so much. I just wanted to say thank you so much for being on here. We're going to have to, unfortunately, say goodbye to you, Sister Kali. But, yeah, gosh, do you have any last questions you wanted to ask?
Well, I just want to say that you men are a pleasure, and it's always good to chat with you. And I look forward to more.
All right. Hey, thank you so much. And, Monkey, go ahead and say goodbye for us if you could.
Bye for us if you could.
All right, we'll be back with our sponsors.
Hello, this is David Loretta Mola with the BCBC podcast. Now, I know you're sitting there thinking, what could David possibly tell me about condoms that I don't already know? Here's a fact. Do you get a condom that delivers to you monthly? I don't think you do. But if you order Lucky Blow condoms, they're great. They'll get you through whatever you need to do. And when you're done, no worries. There's no babies coming out of nothing. That's a fact. You can quote me on that. David Loretta Mola says, buy Lucky Bloke condoms. You'll never regret it.
Welcome back. Oh, my God, that was a great interview with the Sister Kali and the Perpetual Indulgence. Man, Tommy is amazing. And Sister, what was it again? Supercalifragilistic?
Expivagilistic.
Expivagilistic. Oh, such an amazing name. They all have amazing names. But speaking of amazing, David, you know who we have on next?
Why, yes, I do. We have Kit Stubbs.
Kit. Yeah, Kit is the founder, creator, amazing, just an amazing person all around. But they created the Effing Foundation, which, you know, makes me snicker. But they're doing great work for sex positivity.
Yeah,
and
I can't wait.
Yeah, we had them on a little while ago during the Giving Back month, so that was just last month. But they are so amazing. We wanted to bring them back and talk about, you know, how their experience was with the show and moving forward. So why don't you bring them in?
Yeah. Hey, Kit, are you there? Say hello.
Hello. Thank you all so much for having me back on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being a part.
My pleasure.
Yeah, gosh. So I was wondering if you could catch us up on what's been going on with the foundation and everything since the last time we talked.
Oh, yeah. Well, so we have been wrapping up our first major fundraiser and getting ready to give out some pilot grants. We have got 8 amazing projects from all over the country, folks from all different kind of backgrounds, all doing great sex-positive work in art and education. So just got to get these folks their money. We're going to, turn them loose and see what amazing things happen. So we're really excited.
Yeah, I'm looking at sorry, I was just looking at the website, looking at the pilot grant program. You guys are doing pretty well on that for the fundraising campaign.
Yes, it's been. Again, thank you so much for having us on the show. We really appreciate it. Getting the word out. We're a fairly new nonprofit, and this is this has been our first major fundraiser. So again, I was so grateful to have the opportunity to come on.
Yeah, no, thank you.
No, so, have you had a chance to go back and listen to a lot of our episodes or any of our episodes yet?
Well, I've certainly at least taken a skim at your guest list, and that made me really happy because there were definitely some names of folks I knew. Well, in fact, I know you've got Andrew Gurza, I think, coming up next.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been following his work for a couple of years, so that was really exciting to see. I know Sinclair Sexsmith. It's been really exciting to see how you all have really gotten off the ground.
Yeah, well, it's been just an amazing trek. This idea has been percolating in my brain, kind of like what your effing foundation probably was for a long time. Mm-hmm. How do you get it started? Where do you move? Who do you need to bring in? Things like that. So I've brought in some just amazing people, and it's just been a lot of fun. So that's what we're trying to do, educate and entertain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when you're talking sex positivity, like I feel like that's one of the best approaches, right? Like, we don't always have to take everything so seriously. Just like let people lighten up, relax, and kind of have these honest, open conversations. Like, that's fabulous.
Exactly. David?
Yeah, I was wondering, the last time we were here, were there any moments that really stuck out to you, like favorite moments, things that happened that we talked about, that sort of thing?
Okay, well, I definitely appreciated how much Monkey snickers at the name of our foundation, and we had this little shared moment of like we both have these very kind of funny names for our various projects. Like, I totally laugh. Like, yeah, that's exactly it, right? Like, being able to do these things with a sense of humor is the way to go, I think.
Yeah, no, and it's gosh, sorry, I've got this cough that won't go away.
Oh no. You want to take a moment, Dave?
Yeah, if you can take it from me.
Okay, I'll start the next question now. So, Kat, we've been doing this for a while, and we connected with you, and we've connected, as you said, with a lot of really amazing people. Moving forward, are there any topics that you think that would help benefit others that we can explore?
Oh man, well, I'm always kind of biased, right? Because I come at this from the sort of maker-hacker perspective, right? So I'm always interested in talking about, letting people talk about sex and technology, about sex toys, about making their own toys. Those are some of the topics that are close to my heart.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that, because the listeners might not remember. What's your experience with creating these type of toys, the sex toys and information? Where'd you get to start doing that?
Well, so I actually got my PhD in robotics from Carnegie Mellon. This is not exactly what I thought I would be doing with that degree. But then I started hanging out at Artisans Asylum, it's basically a community workshop here in Somerville where I live. And I started just making these really nerdy sex toys. I have if you've seen on the internet, the dildo that has a tiny TARDIS in it. That's mine. That's the TARDIS Tickler. And I also have the Hammer, which is a dildo that's got tons of LEDs on it, and it's a little computer controlled, and it lights up rainbow colors. And so, like, starting to just explore the kind of workshop and meet people there, and start creating these kind of hilarious toys, like, was how I started getting involved in sort of sex positivity and sex positive activism.
That makes
That's
my
amazing.
So happy. Oh my God.
I know. A TARDIS Tickler. It's alliterative and it's geeky.
Like, I'm asexual and I just want one.
Oh, right? Copious free time. It's obviously, I don't think the BBC would be necessarily open to a licensing agreement, but a blue police box is just a blue police box. So at some point, maybe I will get to actually craft a few dildos with blue police boxes in them. Maybe we'll do that as a fundraiser for the effing foundation. Who knows?
I mean, I bet if you talk to David Tennant's agent, you can work something out.
I wish. That would be amazing. Not going to lie.
Oh, David, where do you want to move to next? What do you want to ask?
Oh, gosh. Well, I was wondering, is there any topics that you feel like we haven't covered or haven't covered quite enough that you'd like to see us cover a bit more?
Well, I'd say I am always looking to hear from more people of color. doing work in the sex positive community. That's a thing where we're generally very white. I'm certainly white. And so I'm always looking for, ways to really find and support people of color in this space. Because, they have, another set of challenges that maybe I, as a white person, don't have to deal with. So, yeah, we're actually giving a number of pilot grants to projects that are led by people of color, and I'm really excited about that. So there's like Afrosexology. That's a group of that's 2 Black women in St. Louis, Missouri, who are doing really awesome sex ed, both for youth and adults out there. There's, oh my goodness. Now I'm like, oh crap, what's on my website? Yep. I know. Well, it's like I have 8 projects, and it gets to be a lot to keep track of after a while. It's like, crap, who have I heard of? Oh, there we go. There's also, say, Ruby Johnson, who runs the Polydallas Millennium Symposium, which is really cool. That's a conference all about sort of non-monogamous relationships, really focusing on underrepresented and oppressed groups. Those are just a couple. So, yeah, like I feel like that's an area where those of us that have a platform, like if we can try to sort of really highlight the other good work that people of color are doing, I think that benefits everybody. I think more voices in the conversation and lifting up voices is a good thing.
Well, speaking of highlighting these voices and these individuals, do you think you can make an introduction and then they'd be interested in coming on the show with us sometime?
Oh, yeah. I am more than happy to introduce you to anybody, any of our pilot projects. Like, I'm sure, like, they're all amazing people. Like, I would be honored to help connect you all. Like, we have an amazing group of folks that we're working with.
That's awesome. Because that is something that that's close to our heart, too. Not only the just expanding the information, but also working with some of the segments of the community that aren't getting as much exposure, like people of color or, some of the asexual or agendered individuals, things like that, that we can shine a light on to pop that bubble of misinformation and be able to start exposing people to the fact that we're all just people. We just have different points of view sometimes, so it's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, anything I can do to help connect you with folks that Effing Foundation is working with. So there's all of our pilot projects. There's also our advisory council is majority people of color, and we've got some really awesome folks on there as well. Mr. Black, he's a rope top out of Baltimore and doing great stuff. H. Leslie Foster II, he's a polyamorous queer Black filmmaker in LA doing some really cool stuff. Like, Robin Wilson Beatty of Sexabled. So she's a Black woman with a disability doing education again around sex and disability, which is, I see you're already reaching towards, but there's a lot of voices out there. So, oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anybody on the pilot grant list, anybody on our advisory council, I'm more than happy to make introductions.
Gosh, I'm so excited about all these things that are going to be coming up. I was wondering, speaking of things coming up, actually, do you have any projects, events, fundraisers, anything that we can help promote a little bit on the show?
Oh, I appreciate it. Well, so as we're kind of wrapping up our pilot grant program, we're really going to be launching our kind of major kind of capital giving campaign, where we're really looking for folks that can even chip in $1 a month, $5 a month. That's what we really need if we want to make our nonprofit kind of sustainable and make sure that we can sort of have a stable organization that can go on and continue to give grants and do other cool things. So yeah, like if folks are able to go over to effing.org, EFFING.org, and even just chip in a little bit, that even just a little bit every month makes a huge difference in terms of running a nonprofit.
Oh, absolutely. I can appreciate that. Because we're kind of running a nonprofit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, but it's exactly like the way that Patreon makes a difference for you all and being able to kind of build an audience and build a base of support. Same thing for the Effing Foundation.
No, absolutely. Well, David, do you have anything else you want to mention?
Oh, gosh. I was wondering...
so many things.
So many things. I wonder constantly in my life. Actually, here's one. I was thinking, I was wondering if we can get your input on anything that you've heard on the show. Do you listen to the show frequently? Or, yeah, actually, do you listen to the show frequently?
Not as often as I would like. I actually... I had to actually start cutting podcasts out of my life a little bit because I was using them instead of thinking and like dealing with my own like hard feels. So I was like, so there was a period of about a year or so where like every moment of the day when I was not like working, I had a podcast on. And after a while I was like, wow, I'm actually kind of disconnecting from my feelings. Not so great. Like I need to actually deal with the tough shit in my life. So I have had to unfortunately cut back significantly on my podcast consumption.
Kit, thank you for coming back on the air with us.
Yeah,
we're definitely going to get in touch with you about all of the people that you're helping out and maybe get them some more exposure on the air here.
We certainly appreciate it. Yeah.
Talk to you in the future, because when we get to that our toy store section month and all that, we're going to definitely bring you back because we want to talk about how to build a toy.
Oh yeah, no, my pleasure. Yeah, anything I can do. I really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you so much for featuring me and the Effing Foundation on the podcast.
Well, thank you very much. Like I said, we appreciate you. David, do we have who do we have coming up next?
I'm looking. Let's see. I think it's Andrew Gurza, if I believe.
Andrew Gurza? What?
Yeah, Disability After Dark. I'm super excited. I'm pumped about it.
Yeah.
He was one of our very first interviews that we ever did on the show, so I'm excited to have him back.
Yeah. I think that was pre-David, so I'm looking forward to get to speak to him for the first time.
Well, awesome. We'll be right back after a few words from our sponsors, but until then, Kit, thank you for showing up. David, let's take us out.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Hi guys, this is Sean Monkey McEnany, Monkey for short. What you need to know now is that brown chicken, brown cow needs your love. It needs your help, and personally, we could use your money. But short of that, what you need to do is go out and like our Facebook page. Number 2, give us a review on whatever podcast ability you have. Go out to iTunes, go out to Google Play, give us a good review because that helps. Number 3, subscribe. Subscribe to our podcast because that helps our numbers, helps us with advertisers, helps us with everything. It makes us look good, actually. And number 4, and this is very important, come close to the speaker. It's fantastic. You can go out to Patreon and support us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/BCBC podcast. You can support us at whatever level of support you think you can manage. I don't want you to give us money if you can't do it, but I want you to give us some money and we'll give you back some love as well. We'll give you back some stuff. We'll talk about you on the radio. Who knows? But in the end, supporting us helps keep the show going. Subscribing to the podcast gives us better numbers. And liking our Facebook page, guess what? You always know when the show's coming. So, this is Monkey. You're you. We are together. Cuckoo, cuckoo, fantastic. See you on the next show.
Brown Chicken, Brown Cow. Welcome back to Brown Chicken, Brown Cow. That was Kit from Effin Foundation, or rather the Effin Foundation. They are amazing over there. I can't wait to bring them on time and time again. Just the stuff they do with the amazing the dildo with the Doctor Who stuff, or rather the phone box, and then the hammer dildo, and leaving robotics to do this. Wow, I'm just impressed by this.
Just blown away.
Well, somebody else that's incredibly impressive. We had them on one of our very first episodes talking about sex and disability. They have Andrew Gurza has his own podcast as well. It's called Disability After Dark. It's an amazing conversation. We're decided to bring him back to to introduce him to not only you, David, because I know you didn't get to talk to him last time.
I'm excited to.
Yeah. So why don't you say hi to Andrew and see what he's been up to?
Andrew, hello.
Hi. How are you?
I'm doing great. How have you been since you've been on the show?
It was a few months since we recorded that now.
Oh yeah.
I've been good. I've been just plodding away doing the work of a disability awareness consultant and making my podcast go. Things have been good. Things have been well.
Well, fantastic. We've been making some strides here from our beginnings where you got to see to where we are now. We've been putting some shows in the can and producing some live video shows and stuff like that. So we've just been having a ball on this side of the world. I know for our listeners, you are way up in the Great White North there in Canada. What part of Canada?
Toronto.
Let's see. So David, where were we going with? I know I had a question. I just forgot it. It ran out of my brain.
Well, I just wanted to say, because I got to actually listen to your podcast, like studying up for a big interview here, and I saw this graphic, and I fell in love with it immediately. It's you with a martini glass and a unicorn horn, if you recall that one.
Yeah, it was the first graphic of the show before I switched it up. It was the one that I created, or had somebody create for me, actually, for the first few months of the show. And I was like, let's do something different. So, yeah, I love that graphic. It was great, but it's changed since then.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a beautiful new graphic, too. I just saw it, I was like, ooh, because I dance as a unicorn on the side also, so it struck a chord with me.
Right, right, yeah. No, it was somebody actually created that for me, and when I saw it, I was like, wow, that's too good. I have to use that for everything. And then, when you build a brand around sex, and when you build a brand, any brand, things change. And I realized that I wanted to move away from kind of the fantastical part of it and more into, like, here's me sharing my experiences with you. So that's why the graphic changed. But I love that initial graphic.
One of the things we've been getting a lot of feedback from has been your episodes have been inspiring and have actually brought people to think differently about, not only when we had Joelle and Nadia on as well. Those two episodes together really solidified people and made them think differently. So hopefully we sent some people to you, but also it really made people think about themselves from a new point of view. Have you had a chance to listen to any of our episodes yet?
I've listened to a few here and there. What I know, more so than listening, what I've seen is that you have beat out Dan Savage for the top podcast spot a number of times.
Oh, shush.
Which, as a fellow podcaster, that's the dream.
Yeah.
To beat out Dan Savage for like 2 seconds.
Exactly, 5 minutes. We did it.
Yeah, I'm about to make T-shirts.
Those charts are like pretty much dominated by Dan Savage. So when I saw that you eclipsed him, I mean, I was like, "What?" I was on that podcast. That's amazing. I was very proud to say that I was on one of the first episodes of that show, and now it's gone to where it's gone. I haven't listened as regularly as I probably should have, for shame. But now I will.
But thank you for noticing. Yeah, we've been putting in a lot of hard work and being out. You're right. It's taking out stepping up to that number 1 position on iTunes. It felt really good. As you said,
not just once either. Not just one time. Like 6, 7, 8 times now. It's pretty impressive. I gotta say.
It's been a fantastic journey. We do the happy dance every time that happens, but being able to share not only the information, that's secondary. Hitting to the top of the list really is secondary. Yes, it makes us excited that we're reaching out to people, and people are finding us. But also, people are finding us and finding you, finding Joellen, finding the whole series on sexy performers, and connecting with stories in a relaxed way. That's some of the things that we're really more excited about.
Of course.
Yeah, I was wondering, Andrew, from the last time that you were on the show, did you have any favorite moments that stood out to you while you were talking to us, or anything of that sort?
I just liked that I liked that I was one of the first, and one of your first shows was about disability. I mean, it's rare. Like, I've seen other podcasts tackle disability, and usually it's like their 30th or 40th episode down the line where they'll do a one-off show about disability, and the fact that I was one of the first was just, it was nice to know that conversation was one of the first things you tackled, and I think it's really, and I mean, I've listened to a few since then, and it's to see the growth of what this show's done has just been, it's been nice to watch.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we're actually going to be expanding on the disability information, because we know we do themes over an entire month now. And so coming back in May, we want to have you on the air again because we're going to be doing a bunch of different things. So we're going to be doing the short little episodes. We call them like bite-sized nuggets. And then we're also going to be doing the full show. So we're going to definitely have you back. so that we can showcase you again and bring you on and maybe talk about some of the other corners of the things that you're looking at from your point of view.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Mr. David?
Oh.
Oh.
That's me.
I just poked him with a pen.
Oops.
On your own podcast, I was wondering, is there a question that you get frequently, more often than any other?
On my own podcast about just disability and sexuality?
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, my podcast is so, because it's a mixture of like long form discussion and interviews. By the time you sit down with me, if you're a guest, like we've gone through like what the show's about, so I don't get a lot of the same questions because I really try to vet the people that I'm talking about to say, okay, this episode is going to be about this. We're going to talk about this for an hour. Let's talk about this. So a lot of the same questions don't come up on my podcast. I find when I'm a guest on other sexuality podcasts, some of the questions will come up like, tell me what it's like to date as a disabled person, or tell me what it's like to have sex as a disabled person. So a lot of those questions come up when I position myself as a guest and say, listen, I want to come on your show and talk about sex and disability. Typically, I run into being asked the same questions, but on my show, I really try to use my platform to hear from other people who live with certain disabilities and want to share their story, and I really just let them go for an hour because I think that it's so important to hear other voices and to hear how disability and sexuality intersect for them. So when I talk to other people on the show, we don't have a lot of questions because I'll have questions sometimes as we talk, but I really try to let them just tell me a story because I think these stories from disabled people about sexuality they happen a lot, but we never hear about them. So I want to use my platform to let somebody just talk to me for an hour.
That's one of the things I really liked about your format. You set it up. Here's our topic. Now let's discuss and just exchange and share. And it really does connect with me when I listen to your shows on that aspect. It was really nice. So what advice would you give to someone maybe who asked how, can we avoid, like, for example, ableism?
Well, you can't avoid it.
Let's
just put that out there. You can't, you won't be able to avoid it because even me as a disabled queer person who is all about activism and all about sexual freedom and all those things, I too am ableist. I think we all are. So let's stop avoiding it and let's start admitting that we are ableist and a lot of other ists that we would rather not think about, but we all have that within us. And if we start just admitting that that's what's happening and start, calling ourselves out and saying, yeah, I did a thing that was a bit ableist, oops, sorry, let's move ahead, then we don't have to avoid anything. We can admit what it is and move forward. And I think one of the sexiest things I think that for me as both a podcaster and just a queer disabled person trying to navigate sexuality is if somebody was to simply admit, like, hey, I was being a bit of an ableist douchebag there, sorry about that, let's move ahead. And then it shows that we shouldn't be afraid of the fact that there's ableism out there, especially when we talk about, recently in my work, I've started to coin the term sexual ableism, which is basically when you're in the throes of sexuality with somebody, or you're trying to date, or you're trying to flirt with somebody, and they say something about your sexuality and disability that's ableist. That happens all the time, and if we just start admitting that that's there, as opposed to vehemently defending that we're not ableist, I feel like people do this all the time, where they'll say like, oh, no, I'm not ableist, I have friends who are disabled. And it's like, well, but that doesn't change that you could still be ableist, because guess what? I'm a wheelchair user, and I am still ableist. And so one of the things I enjoy with my show is I started to call myself out on the show and say, like, oh, I said a thing that I shouldn't have, or oh, I did this, or oh, I slipped up here, or I used somebody's wrong pronoun. Oops, let's start again. And I'll actively call myself out because I make mistakes, and that's okay. That was a long-winded answer to your question.
No, that was a perfect answer and a beautiful one. I was wondering, going into the new year, what would you have, like, if you could have one wish for how the sex positivity community would change, or for us as BCBC, what we could do differently, what would that be?
Let's stop calling it the sex positivity community. That's my wish. The term sex positivity makes me want to throw up in my mouth a little bit. And I don't think the reason why is that sometimes, especially as a person who's been othered and marginalized by a lot of communities, it's not about positivity all the time. It's about realism. Sometimes sex and disability sucks. Sometimes sexuality and being racialized, I'm sure, sucks. And if we can stop saying that sex is for everybody, which has kind of become the pinnacle of the sex positivity movement, when if you look at certain marginalized communities, certain types of sex are not for you. And when it comes to disability, like, there's sex I can't engage in because of disability, and that's a reality. So I would say, one wish, let's change it from sex positivity to sexual realism. Let's talk about that as opposed to making it positive all the time. Let's talk about the stuff that's hard and uncomfortable and not sexy about sex and sexuality generally. And I think, well, if we were to do that, we'll have a much more honest conversation that doesn't start and end with sex is for everybody, because that's just not. It's a nice little phrase, but it's just not the reality for so many of us.
Gosh, that is such a beautiful point, and I think we're going to close it out on that point. I just want to say thank you so much for being on here, Andrew Garza. If you can, check out Disability After Dark. It's a beautiful podcast that he's running over there. And on behalf of Monkey and myself, thank you so much for listening in. This has been the BCBC Podcast. Woohoo!
For information on becoming a sponsor, advertising with us, or becoming a guest on our show, visit us at brownchickenbrowncowshow.com. All information in this show is copyright 2018 by the Brown Chicken Brown Cow Show and Podcast and Mariu Creative Solutions. All rights are reserved.
Brown chicken, brown cow. 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 This is fun. Brown chicken, brown cow. Brown chicken, brown cow.